Why study history? Why do we study history? For thousands of years, people have wanted to learn about the people who were here before us, their actions, the good things they did, and the times they were very sad. Why do we do this? Put simply, we study history to learn about ourselves. How would we behave in situations like those in the past? An understanding of the past is the key to an understanding of the present. To study history, you must start with a question. This question can be, was Abraham Lincoln America's greatest president? Next, you would need to gather facts and information to answer this question. This becomes the way that you can prove something. You need to carefully study facts to rebuild the past and look at it carefully to prove if something is true or false. You will look for evidence. Evidence is the information that can be used to prove your statement or to prove that it is not true. In history, evidence or proof can be found in many different forms. It might be an old letter or photograph, or it might be an interesting, old artifact, a human-made object such as a tool, or button, or old vase. Evidence can also be found in pictures, music, and even old movies. As you study the past looking for facts and evidence that prove something, you are actually looking at primary sources, a document or other record of past events that was made by the people who were there at that time. A letter, such as the one Abraham Lincoln wrote to his son's teacher, is an example of a primary source. You will need to take time to study these items and documents left by people of other times and other places so that you can understand them better. While these primary sources can sometimes be very hard to read or understand, they can give you the best information on a certain topic or question. You can also gather information from secondary sources. A secondary source is written after the time period. It is usually written by an expert or famous person. They were not present at the event, or maybe not even alive at that time period. Many secondary sources are created long after an event happens. Secondary sources can include books, magazines, as well as short articles. These can be useful for understanding a large amount of information. All historical evidence, whether primary or secondary, must be looked at carefully. You should carefully study each source for the point of view of the person who created the source. Point of view means how someone sees and understands something. This point of view may be shaped by many things, such as the person's age, religion, job, or political views. For example, a history expert would expect that a Northern soldier in 1864 would have a different point of view from that of a Southern soldier, based on the strong feelings of both sides during the Civil War. Sometimes the source contains information that reflects a certain point of view or opinion. This is not a bad thing, but you must be careful to look for signs of bias and opinions when carefully studying what you think are facts and evidence. In general, bias is anything that might change how a person sees and understands things. Bias takes many forms, ranging from a simple friendship to an unfair dislike of a person or group. Whatever its form, bias can make a source that is not factual and reliable to be used as evidence. Once the evidence is selected and studied, you can begin to recreate what happened in the past. You can start by beginning and building on a history or ordered group of events at the time. Once you are certain of the correct order of events, you are better able to make connections among those events. You can identify causes and effects. You can also begin to look for long-range changes in habits or patterns that may have developed over many years, or even at least 20 years. For example, in deciding whether Abraham Lincoln was America's greatest president, you can examine the events during his time as president and how he reacted to them. You can then compare these reactions to those of other American presidents when they had to deal with nearly the same situations. History is not like other subjects that you study in school. Sometimes there can be more than one correct answer. History is still open to how many people can understand and explain it as they see it. In fact, some people describe history as a current and constant argument about the past. The way we view certain events can change over time. Differences of opinion on how to look at history is what makes history interesting and important. With each new generation of people, there are new arguments. As historian expert Frederick Jackson Turner once wrote, "Each age tries to form its own conception of the past. Each age writes the history of the past again with reference to the conditions first, or top, in its own time." In other words, our understanding of the past is always being shaped by what we, in the present day, bring to it. In that sense, history is never finished.